Hello, I am back after, I guess, a long absence from me. I usually make, since I've been doing this, I've been making a video, I guess the average of every 2 to 4 days since last September. I think my longest lag prior to this was maybe 7 days, six, seven, something like that. This has been almost 2 weeks, so, or actually has been 2 weeks. So sorry, I'm getting all these notifications. It's driving me. Um, I'm gonna pause when they pop up so they don't cut off what I'm saying. Anyway, I wanted to do a video at least to just kind of get back into it. I don't really have a blue review episode to do or another chapter of my music project I was working on. Um, there was a kind of a politically oriented one I wanted to do that I thought was kind of important to do right now, and really just kind of right now while the moment is here. Some things are going on that I just think more voices being lent to it would, I don't know if it would help, but I mean it um, might support the work and efforts of people, some people on the left who are trying to really improve our sorry lot in life here in America. Um, Personally, I've had a pretty sorry lot the last couple of weeks. Had something in my house malfunction that I kind of knew was coming, but I didn't think it was going to happen this soon. I didn't have the money provided to take care of it, and I still don't. And then it caused some structural damage, which I wasn't expecting, which I definitely can't afford to repair, but I'm trying to kind of deal with the fallout. So one of my rooms is kind of off limits and being repaired. It was a room where I kept some of my collectibles too. I did lose a few things. Not no one thing that's super valuable, but I did lose some things that were worth a bit financially, but also a bit to me, sentimental wise. Things I intended to keep and not to sell. But what this has done is kind of make me recommit myself, uh, the losses of things and also the need for money, to recommit myself to my eBay page. So I put up a lot of new entries in the last 2 weeks, maybe about 50 or 60 new things. And this week, in the last handful of days, they're starting to sell a little bit. I have my fingers crossed. Okay, eBay has this new system, and before you got paid by the person via PayPal to your PayPal, so it was in your PayPal immediately. You could spend it if you use PayPal to spend, or you could shut it over to your bank account, and that would take one business day. So, unless you're riding up on a Friday, you usually could get your money within 24 hours. Now they eliminated PayPal from the equation. They have this thing called managed payments. It's totally ridiculous. Now, basically, they're linked to your bank account and they clear the money, but they don't clear it immediately like PayPal did. It takes, well, it's starting to take longer and longer, but maybe that's because I'm slowly starting to make slightly more money. Not a lot, but I hardly made anything in like mid May to late June. I barely, I made record low sales. Let's put it that way. The fees I had to pay eBay, which is a small percentage each month of what I make, were $8. At the height of my selling, I was paying them $250 a month. So that might give you an idea of how big a drop I had, and also how exploitative they were. Well, now they're even more exploitative because now you kind of have to wait to get your money. So they tell you, they admonish you don't mail your items until you're paid. well, okay, yeah, technically you're paid, and then you should mail your stuff out to the customer. And I have a caveat on my account of 5 business days because I can only really get to the post office during post office hours, one, maybe 2 weekdays out of the week, business days out of the week, non-weekend, non-holidays, when the post office is actually open. So I've had customers complain about it, but I've just had to explain to them, look, I can't get to the post office if I'm there at my day job during the exact same hours. I don't drive, and so I can't, rush across the highway and risk my life, or I can't leave early because I'm the only person in the department. I have to close the department at no earlier than a certain time when I work a shift. So those guests, that's actually what we call them at the day job. Most of my customers, my consumers, my buyers at eBay, there's always a term for every business has a different term for customers. So my buyers generally have been cool about it. Some of them very cool, especially since of COVID. They're a little more forgiving. Um, some have been assholes about it, just to be frank. Very demanding. Like if they don't get the item within say 48 hours or less from the time ordered it, they took the offer, not even paid me, then they can get really irate and nasty, which is just the absolute height of spoiled entitlement. But whatever. I knew collectors were weird because I am one, and they're not as bad as resellers. Collector customers I can kind of reason with because they want the item. They're willing to pay for the item for what it's worth. Resellers want you to essentially give them the item for free, so then that they can mark it up like 5,000% and make a killing. They don't give a damn about the actual item itself. They just want to gyp you and then gyp their customers. So resellers, I have a tenuous, an uneasy relationship with. I can't always discern one from the other, but it doesn't take me long now. I mean, sometimes they'll announce themselves as one or the other, make it clear. But usually I can figure out pretty quick which they are, depending on how they try to haggle. So a collector will usually not offer you, like, make an offer of 50% or less of what you list the item for, which is frankly fucking insulting. A reseller will, I've had resellers offer me $1 for a $75, $100 item. And I've had one guy repeatedly slightly was upping his amount for a $45 issue of Avengers, $6.66. I guess he was trying to be funny, but then he kept trying to offer it to me again. I have it on set where it'll automatically turn it down, so I don't see these right away unless I go into offers. And I think he gradually brought it up to like $8, and I felt like just writing back and like, don't do me any favors, man. One guy I did get pissed off at early in the game, and I just wrote him back, seriously, question mark. And then one guy repeatedly sent me the same thing, the same offer. I said, the same amount isn't it's not a counter offer. That's just, you're just making the first offer again. So since my sales have gone down in recent months, my stress from eBay has gone down, but unfortunately my rewards, my security, my confidence financially has dropped considerably. And then this thing happens with my house. So anyway, this has spurred me to triple, is that one? My efforts. So I've actually pulled a couple of whole boxes of comic books that I either was on the fence about selling, was going to sell one day, or was not going to sell at all, and I'm selling all of them. So I've been having cell phone camera issues, and I've resolved most of those. So I'm just basically now taking pictures as much as I can. I'm working constantly at the day job. Uh, so I've got this money coming to me from the last from that I made on eBay over the last week or so, and really only a little bit of it has reached me. Because obviously July 5th was not a business day for some stupid reason. They made that a federal thing because July 4th landed on a Sunday. I'm like, okay, it's over. We're on the 5th now. Let's move on till next year. We don't need to do this. I'm not a fan of federal holidays. They really make life difficult for people in situations like me where I kind of live alone. I don't drive. I don't have a huge amount of money at my disposal, and I have obligations to 2 jobs and time frames. So holidays are really a pain. And I mean, I don't celebrate them anyway. I observe 2 holidays, Halloween and my birthday. Anton LaVey said that you should always make your birthday the greatest holiday, because what higher holy day is there than the day you were born? And I've kind of lived by that. So I explained some of this, not the Anton LaVey part, but to a kid at work the other day. And I mean, he's a great kid, but he is a kid, and he was kind of like, "Really, you didn't do anything for July 4th? You don't?" Like, no, I mean, no, I don't eat meat, so I'm not going to do a barbecue cookout, and I'm not a patriotic American, nationalist, so that takes care of that motivation. I'm not a Christian, so that eliminates me from some of the other holidays. But Halloween's right up my alley, and my birthday. So I'd rather just not have any holidays, but if other people want to do it, that's cool. It's been a while since I've gotten paid holidays at any job, so maybe if I did, then it'd be more something to look forward to. I do kind of dimly remember those days when I got paid holidays and time and a half. I still occasionally get overtime pay at my current job. It's been a while since I got it, because my health has been so bad. I cut my hours back, my days a week back, up and down, kind of between like 3 and 5 days. Whereas initially I was working 5 long days every week. But like I had that crash in December, and then like last summer I had the carpal tunnel issue, and in between I had some various mental and physical health issues. So most of them are resolved. I mean, I'm still recovering from the crash, but I'm in recovery. I have a peer support counselor and a therapist, and then I also have a nurse practitioner. So I have 3 people working on my brain issues, and medically, I see my doctor when I can, but because of COVID and everything, I haven't actually seen her in like almost 2 years. I spoke to her long enough last summer to get a pain refill pain medicine for my carpal tunnel. This is back when I couldn't use my hands, which is one reason I started doing these videos. It was something creative I could do without trying to force myself to draw right. I mean, I could barely work. I mean, much less type, much less do any kind of repetitive or intensive hand-oriented stuff. And that went on all of last summer. I mean, like my birthday last year. My birthday's coming up tomorrow. Feel free to send money or Blu-rays. A year ago, I went on July 10th. That's my birthday. I went to a pro med or med first or whatever you call it, intensive care, emergency care, urgent care. It's changed names a million times around here. Went to urgent care, and they initially couldn't see me because they were only doing COVID testing. They were mostly doing COVID testing. But they did let me in, and they did, see me and give me prescriptions for pain medicine, which took me a while to fill for other convoluted reasons. What is it, Murphy's Law, or when it rains, it pours. It pours, the devil's rain. So I'm doing a lot better physically than I was 1 year ago at this time, definitely. I can use my hands. I'm not in agonizing pain all the I'm not in kind of morose, moribund depression. I'm doing better than 6 months ago when I was kind of off my nut here. And I did a few videos. I don't know what state I was in. Some of them I haven't dared rewatch. I rewatched one of them that I posted for y'all during that period, and I was so disheveled, and my beard looked like insane, because it hadn't come to this kind of comfortable length yet. And I just deleted that video. I mean, it had been up for a few months, but I just deleted it. I was like, I don't need to look this way on camera. This is ridiculous. I should have been more self-aware, but that was me kind of at the height or the depths, I guess, of sorrow, of disconnect from reality, dissociation. I spent 3 weeks written out of work, and that really caused some heavy damage to me money-wise, which I don't think I've ever quite completely caught up from, because then my eBay fell out from under me. My eBay kind of sustained me during those weeks. So now I'm behind, like, on all my bills, at least 1 month, 1 to 2 months behind on all my bills. Though I should shortly, when this money finally comes to me, and when I finally get paid for all these extra hours now I'm working at the day job, yeah, I'm just waiting because I don't want to empty out my bank account at one time. So I'm gradually paying down. So I'll get a small windfall, within the next 1 to 2 weeks, and maybe during that time I'll also make some more sales on eBay. But I'm definitely going to keep putting stuff on eBay. I put up like a fundraiser on Facebook. I'm going to put the link down here. I'm going to make an official GoFundMe version of it in the next couple of days. And I'm going to run it till at least August 1st. Because I barely have known where to start with these house repairs. And one of the things that's tied in with all this is I may lose my central air altogether anytime, within the next few weeks. The guy told me, who came. So, I had to pay a couple of guys to come out and look at the stuff and give me estimates and give me advice and drain some water. And I mean, essentially my central air thing, the Freon thing, backed up and froze, and it went through the pipes, and all this water accumulated in this tank that I didn't even know was up in the attic in the crawl space. And I didn't go to that room for a number of days. I did hear a crash one night, and I thought it was the neighbors. Well, the crash was the ceiling of my crawl space collapsed into my large walk-in closet. And water poured in and mostly just soaked the middle of my carpet, but stuff in the middle of the closet, which was a row of comic books. The stuff that was in boxes, which, were cardboard with the old style reinforced with wax, and then I had almost all of the comics inside in bags and backings. So the vast majority of those survived unscathed, even though that water fell on them. But the stuff that was laying on top of them, the comics out of bags stuff that I was in the process of bagging up, or stuff I was in the process of going through and deciding what to sell. I lost some good stuff. I mean, I was gonna say I can't remember, but I lost the first appearance of Machine Man in 2001: A Space Odyssey, number 8 by Jack Kirby. That's one of my very favorite Jack Kirby stories. I never intended to sell that book. I know there's a Machine Man collection by Kirby and Ditko out there. One day I'll buy it. One day I'll replace some of this stuff in trade paperback form. I've been saying this like since the 90s. I was like, I sold my Batman Year One and Watchmen series and Dark Knight series. I'm like, I'll get them all in trade paperback. But I finally got Watchmen replaced, and that was the copy left by my ex-wife. And I never did get Year One or Dark Knight in trade paperback collection. I don't really care about getting Dark Knight anymore, but I wouldn't mind Year One eventually. But I will go ahead and spoiler ahead for some people. Maybe somebody watching this might be interested in checking this out on my eBay. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to list all of my Jungle Action with the Black Panther series, which is all of the Panther's Rage series and a couple of the Clan series. But I've got the Epic Collection color trade paperback that has the complete Panther's Rage, the complete Clan story, all by Don McGregor, who, through the wonder of Facebook, I do kind of know personally now. And I talked about him a bit on my video, what does a comic book creator actually do. Great man, great writer. So I've got that. So I'm like, I'm just gonna sell these. I've got the originals. Why am I keeping them? Some of them are signed. The covers by Rich Buckler. They were signed back when he was a guest at a Heroes Con. I mean, that's years before I knew him and actually became his friend. And he and I pitched a Commandy series to Vertigo, or tried to. We were shut down pretty fast, mainly because of my lack of public fiction experience. Our Marvel pitch for Defenders went a lot farther, but I should do a video about that sometime. My whole experience with that. I've told friends over the years and anecdotes, but I've got the artwork and stuff. I don't think I have the layouts I did anymore. The thumbnail layouts I did for the first couple of stories, or the basic scripts. They were in an old computer that I couldn't get the external drive. I couldn't access it anymore. But I have all the art, and I did for it concept art. I don't think I have Rich's art anymore, so I don't have the complete package anymore. But anyway, but that was a good experience, a learning experience, and yeah, it has colored my feelings about Marvel Comics in the post Bill Jemas years, like the 2000. We submitted the pitch in 2006, maybe. I mean, late 2006. I submitted it to Axel Alonso, who's now the editor-in-chief, but back then he was in charge of the Marvel Knights line, and I wanted to try to get it in that line if they decided to publish it. But by then I was already kind of sick of Marvel. I mean, a lot of the stuff had changed, but there was still kind of momentum. So, and they still had reopened the open submission program after many years. And so anyone could submit. And of course, you signed a non-disclosure agreement, which basically meant everything you sent them in the pitch that you came up with, they owned then from then on. And they do plunder those things and have used our material. Well, my material, they only used like a tiny little speck of. But I've talked to other people who they've used substantially more. And some of the stuff they used of mine and of other people I talked to were Defenders stories, because Defenders became kind of a dead brand to them. They didn't think they could sell it. They tried to change the name of it to the Order. This is before a Netflix series with a different set of Defenders, different concept, but the Defenders I grew up with. And so they kept doing these mini series, just throwing shit at the wall, hoping something would stick, and nothing did. Ultimately, I mean, the most successful was the series by Matt Fraction, who I don't really care for as a writer. And I used to know him way back before he got discovered and got huge. But I mean, that's irrelevant. But I mean, we got along okay. He worked at the comic book store here in town, Heroes. But I find his work very kind of trendy and hipsterish, and it's the kind of work that he's got some good ideas and some interesting stuff. But then he just gives it to Marvel, and Marvel owns it, and it's like, what's the point? Nothing ever changes in Marvel. There's the only good things that ever come of those things are fodder for adaptation into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I've gone way off track here. My essential track was saying that, yeah, I'm kind of broke, and I am broke, and it's just I'm sitting on some money that I owe to people. I just haven't allocated it all yet. So I need help, and I'm going to leave my email address or my PayPal if you want to send something to me on PayPal. If you can. If you can't, that's fine. I totally understand. And I'll do my fundraiser link to Facebook. And when I do my GoFundMe, I'll add the link also. So this video is kind of like catching up and also saying I need some help, and also what's been going on with me. One last thing I wanted to say related to the Defenders is that David Anthony Kraft passed away a few weeks ago, supposedly of COVID. That's like the catch-all, Um, and well, pneumonia, but they said it was complicated by COVID. I knew David's work as a child reading the Defenders, and me and my then best friend Thomas Davis, who's now passed away also some time back. Uh, he gave me the impetus for Flick that became Flicker Street eventually. I've discussed this on many videos. Can't say enough nice things about Thomas. He was really not only my best, but really my only real friend through a lot of my very young childhood. And he definitely inspired me and made me feel confident enough to create my own comics, even though the ones I initially created, some with him and some by myself, some with other people, weren't very good. I hadn't tapped into the Flicker Street. I hadn't tapped into that thing. I wasn't channeling yet. I hadn't evolved as a person or a creator. But I was able to kind of uh, woodshed and learn how to draw better and create characters and all this kind of stuff. So it was all worthwhile. Thomas put me on that. I think I would have already gone down that path if I had not met Thomas, but he gave me the confidence to do it and not feel like my creations were shitty. I mean, at first he actually created a few characters for me and said, "Here, you can write these characters." He was a creating machine. I've talked about him in other videos. So I'm getting way off track. But anyway, he and I were Defenders fans. We breathlessly awaited each month's installment of Defenders. I had a subscription that I got in the mail during the time Kraft took over and he did a story of who remembers Scorpio, multi-parter, where Moon Knight joins the Defenders briefly, and just an incredible run. Some early art by Keith Giffen channeling Jack Kirby. Those comics still mean a lot to me. I'm not going to sell my Defenders collection, by the way. I've got all of them. I've got all of them up to. I've got every Defenders appearance up to the mid '90s. I might be missing one or two here and there, but I mean, even in other comic books and things like that, there's a couple I'm missing. I don't know if I'll ever replace, get them, but the point is I've got the whole series and all the annuals and tie-ins and the prequel stories and sequel stories. And that's still a high point for me. I still have those comics, and some of them Dave signed for me years ago at Heroes Con when we first met in person. But we refriended on Facebook, and he kind of vaguely remembered me, and he not too long ago he got married to a wonderful woman named, I think her name's Jennifer Bush, I think is her name. She's somewhat younger than him, a lovely African American woman, and her heart was just broken. And I friended her in the aftermath of this. I mean, I haven't really communicated with her, but I did give her my condolences on Facebook. It's pretty tragic. Dave was probably toward the end of his 60s, maybe pushing 70, but man, he looked and acted like 20, 30 years younger. He was just amazing, and he worked a lot with a good friend of mine, Cecil Disharoon, who worked with me for a while in my web comics in the 2000s. I've known him for quite a number of years too, 2000s and 2010s. I don't talk to him all that much anymore, but we have a good solid bond of mutual respect. And our mutual favorite comic book writer, Steve Gerber, and of course Kraft is high up there. But him and Kraft were pretty tight, and he was. I knew he was going to be pretty broken up when it happened. I was kind of shocked. There've been a lot of sudden deaths in recent times, and some of them kind of thrown me off, even though, the people weren't necessarily young, they weren't necessarily at top of health physically, but it's what they mean to you. So wherever they're taken, you still feel robbed, even if you kind of knew it was inevitable. And I don't know if you can ever make peace with the fact you're going to lose somebody that has that kind of impact on your life. And I mean, obviously, friends and family and lovers, we can talk about that. But you kind of make your own family in this world, I think. I mean, my biological family, they've all died off too. But I mean, they weren't always the best family for me. So I mean, I have had other friends that meant a lot to me, and a lover who have died very young. Thomas died at I guess he was 36 maybe when he died of cancer. I had a guy I grew up with. I didn't know as long as Thomas, but I grew up with him starting in my teen years, Christopher Pack, and we had kind of a love-hate relationship. I mean, it was love for most of the years, and then he kind of became an inveterate criminal and went to prison and tried to get his head together and never could. So we had lost touch, but I didn't really. I'd kind of forgiven him. I didn't have any animus toward him because he'd done some really awful things to me. But he was messed up, and I understand. I have nothing against Christopher, but uh, he passed away at 45, not very long ago, really. Um, and he had a heart attack. My first real girlfriend, Alicia Schanzer, she passed away in 1991. She was 23. Um, I wasn't with her at the time. We were, however, on friendly terms. We had a acrimonious breakup. It was a brief and passionate relationship. She was the first girl that I ever made out with, or had any kind of sexual contact with. I mean, I was a late bloomer, but that shocked me, and it's not something I've dwelt on, but it did kind of help. Things like that kind of helped toughen me up, so that when my mom got Parkinson's and was terminal, so she ended up living for 10 years with it. So, you're not necessarily definitely terminal with Parkinson's, but inevitably you are, essentially. It's not an officially fatal disease, but complications of it will eventually kill almost everyone. I mean, a few people have lived with it, like Michael Fox, who has a lot of money and resources, and has been able to kind of keep on top of the cutting edge treatments. My mom wasn't in that racket, and nor did she want to be. She wanted to die, and she really was bad at taking her medicine. She was a very fatalistic person. So you can kind of probably see where I got some of that from. So was my dad, but in a different way. I mean, my mom just hated herself and wanted to die. My dad hated humanity and wanted them to die. So I'm a ray of sunshine that came out of that dark dwelling cave, but by comparison. But yeah, I mean, I handled it pretty well when my mom passed and when my dad passed, and I was in charge of both their funerals. And then I divorced my ex-wife, and I divorced. That was kind of like a death too. That was definitely a giant, the biggest living separation I've been in, where the person is still alive, even they're like a totally different human being. And then, of course, more recently, the biggest loss I've had in my heart was with Kelly Lynn, my fiance, and it's been just on 2 years since she moved out. And you guys, if you've been watching, any of you have been watching my stuff, maybe a handful of you since I started doing these, obviously I've come a long way since last September about all this. But I still, every day every single day there will be something that touches me or reminds me or resonates with me, and I'll just cry. I'll just feel this ineffable, unbearable weight of sadness, and think of her, and I just have this very pure. I'm very mad at her now, and I've written her off, and I've I've rerouted how I deal with this. I had some. I'm not going to get into it because I didn't know my videos. I went into all the older stuff, but in more recent months, I'd already stopped trying to contact her since I sent her those videos I made for her, and she never acknowledged them. But since then, I also happened upon some stuff she'd been doing online and posting, and it rubbed me the wrong way. It angered me, it dishonored me, it disrespected me, and I had not disrespected her at all since we ended. So I'm a bit angry at her, and I have a perspective now. I don't have her on a pedestal anymore. I don't have any hope or expectation. Well, I haven't had any expectation for a while, but I don't even have any real hope that we'll ever even interact again. Back in my mind, I always prayed for it, though. And there was still a little part of me that actually thought it would happen because it would have to, because we were soulmates, right? but now she's off doing, artistic tributes to her twin flame, the abusive longtime boyfriend who passed away. He passed away also, uh, and that scarred her. And apparently now she's going through another bout of grief over it and putting his artwork out into the world, which is cool. I mean, nothing wrong with commemorating the guy. I personally never liked his artwork. Not that he isn't technically gifted, not as much as her, but his stuff's cold. One thing Kelly said about my drawings was that the eyes were always intense. They looked alive. I've had some other people, mostly artists, tell me that, and that's a big compliment. And she was like, "You love the intense women with the intense eyes, big eyes, and they're alive." And see, when I looked at this guy's work, it was mostly portraits of famous people that he liked, and some of them were people I admired too, like David Lynch and stuff. But their eyes were dead. There was nothing there. And that's probably from everything that I was told over the time I knew Kelly. That's probably what he was. He was dead inside long before his physical body gave out. I mean, he was just not a nice person, not a good person. And I'm paying, with all this, I'm kind of paying for a lot of the things he did to her. But as the irony goes, it's kind of like with my ex-wife. She left me after I, supported her with my dad's house and money, and we were going to move into this house together, and I was going to get us a new life, and then she leaves me for a guy she met on the internet who was a ex-convict, a woman abusing, a massive heroin addict, criminal, um, and her to this day, from last I heard, was that he's a god, and she misses him every day, and I'm kind of trash. And Kelly's kind of following the same predictable route. I mean, she hasn't spoken out negatively against me publicly, and that's cool. And this is actually the first time I've ever really said anything negative about her publicly ever. Um, you know, um, but no one's perfect. But anyway, she's gotten the retroactive thinking too. She's retroactively rewritten our story and her own story. And uh, so the guy who abused her and manipulated her and cheated on her uh, and was just a monster who died pretty much, he lived by the sword, died by the sword. That's a quote from her about him. Um, Now he's like her god. Now she's doing this inspired sacred art based on him, and or the twin flame connection, and like I said, distribute showing people his art and talking about him in such a way that denotes that she's still in love with him. He broke her heart and she's still healing. So it does coincide with what I did say about her, which wasn't a negative thing. I don't think it was a negative thing, but it was a truthful thing. It was the hurtful thing in some of the last videos I ever did pertaining to her, which was someone has negated your existence. Like you never mattered, you never existed, you never made the positive impact on their life that you did. And so Kelly's essentially ended up treating me like my ex-wife, idolizing a dead monster who fucked up their lives and demonizing. Um, I'm not a nice guy. I don't want to be labeled that way, but I'm not a bad boy. I think I'm a good man. I think I am now. It's taken me a long time to be a good man. I've had some times when I was pretty evil because the world just fucked me up, and I wanted to kind of fuck it up back. Um, but I know I was a good man to my ex-wife, and I was a very good man to Kelly, and so this is kind of the irony. Some people they they idolize, they hero worship. What's the word I'm looking for? Put on a pedestal. Uh, I'm not getting the right word. I know you guys probably have already thought of it, but they romanticize these monstrous people who were catalysts in their life, and it's good that they were catalysts. I mean, you can be a good or a bad catalyst. Kelly used to tell me that. She used to say she was always a catalyst to other people, good or bad. And so, and last time she ever did reach out to me, she said, use me as a catalyst to, transform and learn and grow. And I don't know. Like I said before, and it sounds bitter, but it's how I feel. I'm more than just someone's learning experience. I'm not like someone's fucking science project. I mean, I'm a human being that wants to be loved and wants a commitment that I give to them. And all the things that the deceased man that Kelly knew, wouldn't give her, refused to give her, and the things he did to her to hurt her. He had a double standard. She couldn't do those things to him. Well, Kelly has been on the defensive since we broke up that, okay, well, you're not letting me do this, blah, 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 blah. But there's no, there's no hypocrisy in our relationship because I never did those things to her. I never cheated on her. I never manipulated her. I never made her feel bad about money. She projected that onto me because of her own insecurity, which was mostly cultivated by him. He laid a lot of guilt on her sexuality, and I even by her own admission, I helped her almost completely heal in that area. But now she's kind of gone backwards. So, I've lost a lot of respect for her. I mean, not as a person, as a being. I mean, the love and the things that I cherish about her. Like she's the kind of person that if I watched one of her videos again, which I dare not, I'd do the same thing I did in December. I'd fall in love with her all over again. If I met her on the street, I would fall in love with her immediately. And if it weren't for the kind of, like, if I didn't know her and I encountered the stuff online a couple of months ago, I did, and didn't have the stuff about the dead boyfriend, I would be like, I'd like to get to know this chick. I think I'll reach out to her. She's just, to me, she's always been everything I've looked for in a woman and a human being, a partner and an artist. And, but she doesn't feel that way about me. She did. She said she did. She said it all the time, constantly, before I did. So as you can see, this still has a harsh effect on me, but I can kind of keep it together. I can kind of measure my emotions. I don't get completely lost for long periods of time, like hours or days or 3 weeks out of work. I mean, I put that behind me. I've got a new therapist I started with in February, and she's really good, and she lets me talk about this stuff. And the guy I had before really was holding me back. That whole time I was out of work, he was going to write me a note to be out that time, and he just dragged his feet and didn't know how to do it. Send me the email with the right note, and I don't know, man. I mean, but my nurse practitioner, she just said, I wrote you a note, come down to the office and get it. And I got it, and I copied it and sent copies to my boss, Jeanette, and sent copies to my district manager, and it was fine. I came back to work and everything was all good. And I was very grateful to Jeanette and to the then district manager for that. Law employers wouldn't, my current district manager has been very patient with me about some of these problems I'm still having echoes of. And I sent her photos of the home repair disasters, the home destruction going on here. And she's been very cool with me. But she's very different. She's a bit more corporate and a bit more focused on areas that are more important that she thinks we should be more focused on than what most of us are focused on by necessity. In other words, she's more into seeking out sales and bringing new people into certain folds with companies that we have contracts with, rather than the customers that come to us who are with smaller carriers and servers, and they're generally less financially you know, endowed, and a lot of them are elderly. And I relate to those people. I'm a working class guy. I mean, I'm the common man. I'm like Harvey Picar said. I'm a working class intellectual, and I guess I am. And I'm proud of that. And so under other circumstances, like me not being in dire straits now, and the district manager not being in dire straits, her dire straits is that people keep quitting. Our district has very few people, so there are actual stores in our district which will go some 1 or 2 days, maybe not in a row, but each week there'll be at least a couple of stores that'll go 1 or 2 days without anybody in the department. They call it dark or a dark door or going dark, and that used to be the horrible fear and nightmare of my old district manager who hired me, and Jeanette, my immediate boss. And it's a lot of dark doors now, and she's not too worried about it. So, and I've had to make a couple of those happen, but now it's really just Jeanette left the company, but went to go work for Target. So she's still in the same building. And Jeanette's somebody I don't think I've talked to about much in my videos. I've talked about a little on Facebook, but she's really the most wonderful boss I've ever had, and she's really a wonderful human being. She showed me a lot of compassion and patience at a time when I was at a very low ebb, and I'll always be grateful to her. She'll always be my friend, and I love her a lot. And she left our company, so a guy who replaced him is the guy who replaced her is totally inept, and then he's going to fill in at other stores, and he didn't get trained to be a lead, even though he's now a lead. And apparently there's things, he's been at the company longer than I have, and there's things he never was trained on the beginning, or he was trained and they didn't take. He has like some learning disability issues, which that's fine, but I don't know if that he should be a lead, and make more money than me, but that's whatever. They didn't ask me to step up. Jeanette didn't want him to replace her. She thought he was incompetent, but he is incompetent. He's a good person. He's got a good heart, but he's a very frustrating individual, and he has some issues, mental issues, not like mine. Some like I had years ago when I was his age. Some I had gotten over by the time I was his age. Some I never had. Some really bad ones. And when I say mental issues, I mean they're really more socialization and processing issues. They're not like he was sexually abused and he acted out. Not like a lot of people I've known who've had, or me who was beaten up by my dad and picked on. And had kind of this neurotic, inferiority complex and was hypersensitive. He's more on the spectrum, and that's a challenging existence. And I have several people I've been close to who are. Though I will say the people that I'm close to that are on the spectrum or have been, like Kelly, they've all been really high functioning, and yet none of them have been able to really pull off working in the public, much less in a leadership position over the long haul. And I get it, because I don't want to work in a leadership position anymore, and I have. But it caused me stress with my anxiety. I can work in the public. I'm really good at it, which is weird because I'm kind of misanthropic sometimes, but I'm good at it. And these people, because of their challenges, they can't really do it, and that's okay. But then they're high functioning people. The guy that I work now for, technically, he's not nearly as high functional or intelligent. And here he is, not only working in the public full time, but he's a lead, and he really shouldn't be. And he's not on medication. He's not seeing a therapist by his own admission. And he's difficult. When I have share a shift with him, sometimes I feel like he's being really nice to me, and I'm going to treat him as a nice person. But then I end up doing his work for him, and I don't get any credit. I don't ask for any credit. And he gets paid a couple of dollars more per hour than I do, and I'm doing his work. I'm doing Jeanette's work. Now, everything she trained me, I'm doing. And it's just me and him. And really, most of the time now, it's just me. So it's gotten to where I'll work 5 days a week, the whole shift. So really, he's only putting in 2 days a week. One of which, he might overlap with me, like double coverage, like on a Saturday or Friday when it's supposedly supposed to be busier. Um, like this week, I don't think he's gonna. He and I aren't gonna work together at all, and I think he's only working 2 days this week, and the other days are at other stores, and or maybe one day this week at our store. So I've inherited all of the customers that used to only ask for Jeanette by name, and I mean all the older people, and they loved her, and I mean I've inherited the old guys who all had a crush on her. Now they don't ask for me by name like they did for her, but because she's a cute woman with beautiful eyes. That's what they always said. She does have beautiful eyes, but I mean they always said that woman, she's got beautiful eyes, and they would just start practically salivating talking about her. Where's Jeanette? And Jeanette's a little older than me, but she looks young enough to be my daughter. She's a very attractive woman, very distinctive looking, but not, she's not threatening or has no ego about her look. She's very humble. She's kind of insecure. She's kind of a bit neurotic and nervous, like I am. And so I guess that's why we bonded. We have a similar temperament, a similar age group. Um, but she's a Democrat and a Christian, neither of which I am at all. But that's okay. I mean, I think she's a really sweet woman. But I've inherited her customers. Now they ask for me by name. They just don't drool over me and hit on me, which is good. I don't want those old guys, waxing, romantic about my beautiful eyes. I mean, they are beautiful, but I don't want to hear them talking to me about it. It'd be nice if an attractive female, not online. The women online do say I have beautiful eyes, but it'd be nice if a woman like who actually is there in the flesh in my presence would say that to me. That would be a trip. It's been a while. I think it's been since Kelly that I've had that happen. Um, yeah, so 2 years, damn. Um, but all the action I've gotten online has just been marking time or distracting me from her. Some of them have been worthwhile people like Bree that we actually had a relationship, even though it was constantly the labels were changing. But I cared a lot about her, and I still do care about her. But I'm not going to talk to her anymore. She hurt me, not horribly like Kelly, but we weren't as close. Bree was not a monogamous person, and I knew that going in, and I wanted to try something different. And being part of a polyamorous thing, though, like a V thing, as they call it. In other words, I wasn't involved with her husband. I was just involved with her, and I was mono on my side. So I learned all these terms from her about it. Um, it was something different, and it was different than the dynamic with Kelly, and that's why I think I wanted to be involved in it. And Bree was a very intelligent woman, is a very intelligent woman, very articulate, good writer, strong thinker, and very left wing politically, maybe to the left of me, and also a very sensual, sexual person, which that's an important component to me. Uh, and then that I had that dynamic with Kelly and with the woman I was with before that, but not really with my ex-wife. Um, so these left-wing intellectual sex maniac women, I don't know, man, and also who are often almost always into mysticism, magic, or witchery. God, man. I mean, they find me and I find them. It's weird. I think I'm destined to, if I have any relationships further, I think they're destined to be with that general type of person. I think that's kind of niche, more or less, as far as an actual relationship, not just a sexual relationship or a dating. I just can't really just do casual dating or friends with benefits. I can do friends with benefits. I guess I could. I was about to try it with somebody who fit some of those descriptions uh, very recently, and it wasn't going in a satisfactory direction for either of us. And she ghosted me. I was going to ghost her, and then she ghosted me. She beat me to it by like an hour. Because I've decided that when someone shuts down on me and pushes me away or changes on me or betrays what they have promised me, I'm going to be the one who walks away from and makes sure they don't get back into my life. It's not going to happen to me if I can help it. So, Kelly ghosted me, my ex-wife ghosted me, Stevie ghosted me. But the handful of women I've had, been in talks with or interested with, and even Bree, who had something a little more serious with, uh, you know, I've ghosted all of them. This woman that I just mentioned, the newest witch on the block, she yeah, she beat me to it, but that's okay because it didn't hurt me because she thought I was way more into her than I really was. And that's a mistake some people make. I mean, I'm still finding, and that, Bree made the same mistake too. She thought that I was more codependent on her than I really was. I was just being passionate, being caring. But, she took it as getting too serious too quick. But what do you say to someone like that? You say, well, no, to be honest, I really just have one love, the love of my life, and you're not it. No offense, And I got that talk out of the way with the new witch pretty quick. She said she had a guy who crushed her, and I told her about Kelly, so that was cool. We were on that term, but then she still, just because I started sending her music, a lot of music. First she was thrilled, and then she was like, "I'm overwhelmed. You want more from me than I can give you," and I'm like, well, okay, what do you think I want from you? She didn't ask me. She just assumed. And it's gotten to the point where, with her and Bree and with Kelly, the projection and the gaslighting and all this kind of stuff. I have a nickname for Kelly, the projectionist, because she's done this so much since we've been apart. Superimposing another being on me that I'm not. And I had to fight it. And it took me a long time to fight it and not blame myself and not accept her skewed vision of me based on bad processing on her part, misunderstandings and traumas that she had accrued. And rather than talk it out, which we always vowed to do, she just left. She just left, left her engagement ring, left her collar, left half her stuff. She didn't have a lot, and left Charlotte and left my life forever. And that's the ultimate kind of ghosting. She ghosted me online too, but so anyway, I'm to the point where I want to take the power back, and I don't want to constantly just be this perceived as this person who's I used to be this way for sure years ago. This kind of pitiful guy who just is desperate for love and sex, and I don't care anymore. I'm very embittered and cynical now. I really don't care, and I know who I want to be with, and I can't ever be with her. So that's that. Now, if I can meet someone that I can be with in a similar but different vantage point, and it's a equal respect thing like me and Bree started with, until she kind of flipped the script on me, again, based on assumptions that I never meant to put out there, and I tried to clarify, but no, she just made up her mind. She didn't ghost me. She just said, there's no way we'll be able to be a good fit in this way. After he'd spent weeks and weeks and weeks pursuing this, and after she had actually pursued me on and off for a year and a half since I met her online, I was like her number one target, and I was flattered, and I thought she was cool. I thought she was an attractive girl, different type than some women I've been attracted to, but physically, but a sexy woman, a classy woman, a smart woman, which that is sexy to me. A literate and philosophical and very righteous politically, very far left and compassionate, humanistic. So that's three girlfriends in a row I've had like that, and in all those areas, and that's the path I'm on, I guess. And so this newest witch I met, she kind of fit that general type, but she wasn't what she was cracked up to be. But she's just one of those people who's going to be eternally bitter about stuff that happened to her and not deal with it as well as any of the people I just mentioned that I've been involved with who had similar traumas. And I include Kelly. I mean, this woman, she doesn't have the kind heart of Kelly or Bree or Stevie. You know, she may have a kind heart, but as far as the way she relates to a male in a hetero whatever relationship sense, there's always going to be a cynicism, a jadedness because of her own abuse. And I dated a woman like that 20 years ago, and it just about did me in. You know, I put her on a pedestal and I forgave her everything, and she was mean to me, she was abusive to me, she was cynical. She like always was making me prove myself to her because all these guys had hurt her, and she's always cynical. And you know, but at the same time, yeah, you know, we'll probably get married one day, we're gonna move in, you know. I don't know. I mean, now she's been married for a number of years, and I feel so sorry for that guy. But I mean, he's kind of a dumbass. But I mean, I don't have anything against that woman either. But at the time, I was lured in by, on the surface, what I perceived as some of these same qualities that I later found, like a philosophical nature, an intellect, a sensual, sexual dynamism. But this woman, once you got to know her in a relationship, all that went away. She became very boring, non-sexual, and just bitter about everything, and wanting you to do all the work in the relationship. That's kind of how this new witch reminded me. She reminded me of her, that woman, and a bit nicer, a bit more intellectual, but definitely jaded and bitter, and constantly defining boundaries, even when you're not even going near the boundaries. But she's like preemptively like, I will never do this with you, and it's like, okay, I didn't ask for that. You know, it's like assuming things. So I'm tired of people. I'm tired of women that I'm involved with assuming things about me, presuming them, because I don't do that to them. And I have plenty of female friends on Facebook, and they post a lot about this kind of stuff. My male friends kind of don't dare do that, really. That's a bit gauche, you know, socially gauche these days. But my female friends do, and then they put all this stuff out there, and I respect them. You know, they're my friends, and they have every right to feel that way. But I feel that way too, you know, and you know, I feel like I don't need to be treated a certain way, you know, and that I need to take my power back. And I have a peer support counselor told me that's kind of what I needed to do. And, you know, of course, I'm hearing like Rage Against the Machine with his kind of whiny voice about take the power back. I saw them at Lollapalooza years ago. He's like, take the power back. You know, he's got this crazy, this crazy rapping, you know, kind of sounds like he's kind of been gelded, you know, not as bad as like Geddy Lee or something, but then not as good a singer either. Zach De La Rocha. I mean, he's got good lyrics. I mean, I respect the guy, but just vocals I've always found a little ridiculous. That's just me. But I mean, I kind of see why they went with Chris Cornell later with Audio Slave. I wasn't the hugest fan of him either, but he did have a better voice and a better presence. So I'm all over the map, man. So I'm over an hour. I need to cap this off. The next video, I'm going to probably ask for help again. I'll keep you updated on what's going on. Also, I do want to talk. I talked about Dave Kraft dying. There's someone else who died just the last couple of several days, and I may do a whole video on this person. I've been thinking about him quite a lot. An artist that I've always admired, and they died rather suddenly about a week ago. Fascinating. I've been listening to their music a lot, and it's cool. It's resonating again. It always has, but more now. That's always the way of it, right? And then I'd like to talk about Loki. Episode 6 is going to be on in 5 days. Just saw episode 5 day before yesterday. So it's about to wrap up. If I happen to get a chance to somehow see the Black Widow for free around the same time, then I'll do with this week in the MCU and cover both of them. But if I don't get to see Black Widow for a while, I'll just do a Loki. And I'll have the whole series watched, so I'm not going to do it in parts like I did with Winter Soldier and Wanda and Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision. But but I just review the whole series, and I probably won't get into all these like plot mechanics quite as detailed as I did with these other shows. I've watched this very intently, and I've absorbed it fully, and it's it's a lot more accessible than either of those shows, and yet very idiosyncratic. It's not as mainstream as the Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's not as involved, though, thematically either. It's not as experimental as WandaVision, uh, but it's also a bit deeper. I mean, WandaVision was pretty deep, but this one, the Loki series is, and it's filmed amazing, cinematically gorgeous. And Hiddleston is a motherfucker. I mean, I'm just gonna lay it out. I'll just end on that note. I mean, after seeing High Rise and The Night Manager and every Loki appearance he's made and interviews with the guy, I mean, he's incredible. I mean, I don't have like a mad crush on him like millions of men and women do. You know, I don't have him as like my goth icon, but I love the character. I love what they've done with the character, and I love Hiddleston. He's a very he's easy to connect with, even when he's playing somebody loathsome, or you know, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I think that's just it. I'm the thing that I can't quite describe right now is that ineffable, thing, that je ne sais quoi. That's kind of been the secret of his popularity and his resonance with people and his owning that role and him transforming the character who was fairly one dimensional in the comic books into one of the most layered characters in all the MCU. There's some nuances in his performance in this current series that are just masterclass acting stuff. I mean, I hate to sound cliched or like a critic, but I used to be one. So, just amazing stuff. He needs an Emmy for this. So, okay, I'm going to wrap up, but I'm glad I'm back in the game. This was fun. I don't know if it was fun for you guys. Please put a like on this if you like it, please, and subscribe if you haven't, please. And if you can help me out with anything, money or Blu-rays, I'm sort of kidding, but sort of not. You can be a patron of the channel if you gift me with a Blu-ray to review. But anyway, if you can help me with my current crisis, it'd mean more to me than I can say. Obviously, you'd be like not just a patron of the channel, you'd be like a patron of like my soul, like of my life. That's pretty heavy. So I don't know if you want to take that mantle upon yourself or not. So yeah, I mean, things are looking down for me in a lot of ways, empirically, my environment. But inwardly, I'm moving forward. I'm driven. I'm driven by a lot of things. I'm excited again about selling these comics. It's exciting. It's collecting them. It's the reverse excitement. I don't know how to describe it. Just handling all these comics, it just makes me kind of giddy. And writing about them on eBay, it's exciting. So check out my eBay channel. I'll put that link to my eBay store. There's going to be some amazing stuff that you won't believe is going to be on there. Stuff that I never thought I would sell. But a lot of people don't know that I have because I've like kind of guarded it. But I just sold 4 New Gods action figures that were sculpted in the Jack Kirby style. I got a good amount for. Of course, I haven't been paid yet because of eBay's new system. It's probably gonna be another week before I get the money. But theoretically, I just got. They were purchased. It's the biggest sale I've had in a while, actually, and money wise. I didn't think I'd sell those figures, but there's a lot of figures I'm absolutely going to keep. But it was like, well, they don't match any of my other DC figures, and they're kind of a set. And I had 5, but Darkseid's arm fell off, and a couple other people who were selling it said the same thing, that one of the figures' arms fell, like Calabax's arm fell off. Anyway, so I sold Light Ray, Orion, Mr. Miracle, and Metron. They're beautiful, but I have more DC, well, there's Marvel Legends, not DC Legends, but the DC Direct kind of standard sculpt for the figures, which Marvel Legends has wisely copied. So that sort of figures are nice now. But DC's been doing them since the 90s. Wonderful sculpts, but I have characters, some of those characters, the New Gods characters, that are more along those lines, like the other figures in that general style. Like I have a Big Barda, I have a Mr. Miracle like that. I have a Steppenwolf, and I have a Desaad. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was bummed about Darkseid. I probably would have kept him anyway, but then again, maybe not. But anyway, so he's not in the set, but the other four I sold. Now that set itself did have a Calabac and a Big Barda, which I never owned. If I find that Big Barda though, I'll probably keep it. I did sell one of my Big Bardas though. That was in a set with the Mr. Miracle. That Mr. Miracle I'm keeping. But that Big Barda I just sold. For $10. I haven't got that money yet either. How about to mail it? So yeah, what? Or no, I did just get paid for that. I did get paid for that. The whole $10 I got paid. Okay, so anyway, I'm about to mail it. But I have another Big Barda, which is more like the typical DC sculpt, but great figure, beautiful costume and helmet and everything, but she's like skinny, and that's not Big Barda. So I would get the Kirby style Big Barda. It's kind of like Power Girl. I bought a Power Girl to put in my massive JSA figure collection, which is really kind of the centerpiece of my action figure collection, other than like my movie Maniacs and my Universal Monsters sideshows. But the next would be like my Justice Society of America collection, and I don't plan to part with them unless I have to, which I will. There are other figures that I am going to sell that I didn't think I would, that I will definitely sell. So the New Gods were the beginning, but my point is I was trying to get at least one iteration version of the character figure for every member of the JSA, and I've got all but two that were ever made in any figure form. So I have like two more, which I just after the fact I'll eventually complete it, but I guess one day. But then there's like 3 or 4 characters that they've never made any figures for. Like, God, what are some really offensive ones? Star Spangled Kid, not Stargirl, but Star Spangled Kid, Sylvester Pemberton. They've never made any figure of him, and Mr. Terrific. They've never made a figure. They have made the little PVC set, which I have that. I have the PVC set, but they never made a regular size or semi-regular size standalone Mr. Terrific. And there's like 2 or 3 others. I just can't remember who they are, but no more than 5. I think the only ones I'm missing that have figures represented are the Superman of Kingdom Come. He was a member of the JSA, and I don't have him. And I don't have one of the Johnny Thunder kind of small figures. That's the only one they made of Johnny Thunder. It's not even that great a figure, but I would like to have it to represent him. But all the other ones I've got. So, some of them I have multiples. But anyway, my point was I bought Power Girl to have a Power Girl, and she was kind of skinny. I didn't really like her design. So I did eventually buy the original DC Direct Power Girl from like 2000, which is modeled exactly on the Wally Wood original art. And that's she's a very sturdy, voluptuous woman. See, that's the thing about people who just casually are into comic books and think that comic book fans, comic book fans who are into superheroes are like perverts and sexist or whatever, is that it's not that people like me want all the women to have big boobs and be skinny. I'm not into that combination personally. In my real life, I'm not into that. But they're like, oh, all you care about is the boob. It's like, well, this is the thing. I mean, most of the characters in comics, as a lot of women you see in real life, are fairly slim or modest or figure. They're not like bombshells and hourglasses. Now, I personally have been fortunate to have been involved with quite a number of bombshells and hourglasses, so I'm kind of spoiled, and that's kind of my thing, really, overall. If I have a thing, but some women in real life, a lot of women in real life, but not enough, probably. I'm kidding. Have really large breasts and are thicker, women, and that's becoming more accepted. So when I look at the action figures and people complain about Power Girl, why she got to have big boobs, and I mean, the way I see it is, if the JSA were cast in a movie or a good one, and really were fleshed out by actors, the other women characters like Black Canary, etc., would be of more traditional, slimmer, athletic build. But Power Girl has big boobs. I mean, that's just that person, that being, that character has large breasts, and it's kind of on the thicker side. Same with Big Barda, and Kirby intended Big Barda to be that way too. So a skinny Power Girl or skinny Big Barda figure is kind of weird to me, but I have them anyway. Um, so that's it. I've probably gone into some really weird territory here. Thanks everybody, and I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.